everyone, welcome to today's episode of Tips Appreciated. We have Brian from TV Trivia Podcast with us today, and we'll be talking about his 2 bike trips and what his most favorite memories are. He'll be sharing his top tips on preparing for these long bike rides, so stay tuned.
Welcome to another episode of Tips Appreciated. Today we have Brian from TV Trivia Podcast. So we met you, Brian, through Reddit podcast guest exchange group, right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful subreddit.
Yeah. What a small world. You are in which city?
Close to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Close to Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. We are in Edmonton, Canada. So the world has gotten very small in these times of virtual worlds, right?
Yep. And you said again, in Canada, where it just had a snowstorm and It's just been nicer weather down here in Pennsylvania. And I can't imagine dealing with a snowstorm right now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, why don't you give our readers and our listeners a little bit introduction about yourself?
Brian, I've lived in Pennsylvania my whole life here, but I've just recently started getting into podcasting. Loved listening to podcasts for a long time now. I guess my love for that started with audiobooks. Growing up, we would take, road trips to Ocean City, New Jersey, or someplace like that, a couple hours away. And my mom would always put on the Harry Potter audiobooks, which were amazing. That guy who voices everybody is so talented. But more importantly, it felt like the car trip just flew by. You almost wanted the car trip to go longer because of how much you were enjoying listening to these. And so I picked up podcasts, and I found out that they're almost like a couple of them anyway. Yeah. There's audio dramas out there, like books on tape, and just stuff you can enjoy listening to so much, and have recently started my own there about the only thing I know about, which is TV and TV and movies. So I started a TV trivia pod, and that's been a lifesaver during quarantine, something to keep me busy and work on. I've been loving it. And again, meeting great people here through subreddits and working with all these other podcasters. It's such an awesome community.
Totally. I noticed in one of your episodes, you have some trivia around The Office. I was at the dentist about 2 weeks ago now, and they had The Office on. So I was like, this is so cool. Like we're doing this interview pretty soon. So this is awesome. But another passion of yours, though, is bike tours. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So this started, I guess it's within the last 2 or 3 years. My dad actually found out about it first here. He was always been into biking, but then found these other communities where there's this thing called adventure cycling, bicycle touring. A couple years ago, he biked from Maine to Florida, and we all thought he was crazy. He's staying with strangers. There's these sites called Couch Surfer and Warm Showers, where it's like Airbnb, but people let you stay in their house for free. And we were like, make sure you have your phone on all the time. This is crazy.
Yeah. I would be scared, to be honest. Going to some stranger's house. Like, okay.
Right. But, he made it back fine. Said he loved the whole experience, and planned another trip 2 years later on this Eurovelo 6 trail, which goes across Europe from France, the Atlantic Ocean in France, to the Black Sea in Romania.
That's nuts.
And he planned it over summer, and I'm a teacher, so I have my summers off, and he asked if I would like to join. And I said, sure, why not? I just started this almost 2-month bike tour across several countries in Europe, and did the same thing, staying with strangers, which I was very anxious about at first, but it became my absolute favorite part of the bike trip. So much fun.
Yeah. So, I think you mentioned, just meeting people, the stories that they have. So what was it like when the first kind of invite, I guess, from your dad, and you're like, okay, I'm going to jump into this. It's 2 months long. So did you have to go buy a bike? You already had a bike training?
Yeah. Did you train for a while?
Great question.
Stationary bike for like days? Like, what do you do?
I did not have a bike at the time. I'm a runner. I really like to run. I like to distance run. So I was in decent shape. Wasn't super worried about that, but I did use a stationary bike at the local gym just to get a little extra ready. My dad found a bike for me on Craigslist, I think 80s Schwinn Voyager bicycle for $150. And we use that. That's the bike I used to bike across Europe.
Wow.
No way.
So you shipped that to Europe. Like, how difficult was that to do?
The shipping process isn't crazy difficult. So apparently, most bike shops will give you a bicycle box to ship these in for free. They get them in boxes and put them together, and they give away the boxes so that you can do something like this. You have to take the bike apart a little bit, but nothing difficult. Nothing you can't do with an Allen wrench.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Allen wrench is the right word. Now I'm those hexagon things.
Yeah. I think it is Allen wrench. Yeah.
Okay.
I just tightened my son's BMX bike, and it was an Allen wrench, so not quite a BMX bike, but that is absolutely impressive though. Like Craigslist bike for $150, an 80s bike, shows you don't need that $3,000 or $5,000.
Yeah, I was just thinking,
TV,
like,
right?
do you need something super light? Like, I'm guessing back in the 80s, they didn't make anything like crazy light back in the day, right? Like,
right. You don't want anything super light. So I guess there's, the two big popular ones are road bikes and mountain bikes. And there's a different type of bike for this. It's called a touring bike, which are heavier. Road bikes are that carbon fiber material that you can like easily pick up with two fingers. And it's incredible how light they are, but you don't want to have a carbon fiber bike because they, I guess, are a little more fragile. If something were to happen, they could break, and they're almost impossible to fix that material. So a lot of touring bikes instead are made of steel, which is very sturdy, a lot heavier though. I think most touring bikes are between like 25 and 35 pounds. You can take that to any welder and they can fix any touring bike, much easier to fix, sturdier material so that when you're traveling with all that weight, the bike's not going to crack or something. So yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So day one on your Schwinn bike, you're about to get started. You're like, I'm ready to do this. I'm sure you're pumped, anxious, a little nervous, or?
Yep. All those things. And that first day was terrible. That was, it was, a lot of our paths were on, a lot of our riding was on paved surfaces or like fine gravel, easy to ride on. And there was just a whole bunch of like really rocky terrain we were covering the first day. And we ended up at a camp sign that was up this crazy steep hill that we both had to walk our bikes up. And then we found out that we missed it. And then we had to walk our bikes back down. And then like, it was a little much the first day, but I think every day after that went much smoother.
Nice,
That's good. So I know this trip was 2 months. Was there any like accidents or anything, or like tires popping, or did you encounter any of that?
Yeah. So there was a more drastic accident towards the end of the trip. But you do carry spare tires in your packs here, just in case something were to happen. They're pretty easy to fix. We also dished out a little more for these a little bit nicer tires that, they say they're like puncture proof and stuff and can work really well. And honestly, we didn't have a problem with the tires and at all. That worked out really well. But towards the end of the trip, the tires on my 80s bike started to fall apart. Not the tires, the wheel, the spokes, where the spokes were attached to the rim.
Yeah.
It was pulling the rim apart. You could see through the rim, cracks in the rim from one side to another. And I had noticed it, a couple of days ago, and it just kept on getting wider. And I didn't think we were going to make it. So, I showed my dad. We tried to loosen up the spokes and see if we could do some work around there to make it work. But when we tried in the morning, loosening the spokes just made it so that the wheel no longer spins straight. So that wasn't working. We ended up going to this hardware store that had a spare tire. So they took out my back tire, put on this brand new one, which they, they really tightened on there. I had this quick release tire, which, you could just loosen and then unscrew to change the tire. This guy had, his tools and was like really screwing it on there. And that tire popped 2 hours later, and we were with the tools we had, we couldn't take the tire off because of how hard he had to put it on.
Yeah.
So we tried to hitchhike, and we walked our bikes for like 2 hours to this small town where, again, no one spoke English, but we were able to communicate that we had this flat tire. We can't get it off. They were able to help us out. We got the tire working again, made it to our destination really late at night, and took a shortcut the last 2 days. The last part of the trip follows this river that kind of goes to a U and then, goes to the Black Sea. We skipped the U part and just went straight to the Black Sea for fear of this happening again. And that was the worst thing. I don't think things usually like that happen on bike trips. My dad has never had a problem, never had a flat in the 3 bike trips, he's done. So that was a little major.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still have the bike today?
No. Because of that rim problem, we figured it costs maybe a little more than the bike we paid for just to ship it back. So we left it there with someone who said that they'd like the bike. So we left it with them. And for the next bike tour, I got a different bike.
Nice.
Oh,
very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So speaking about your next bike tour, was it the Philly to St. Louis one?
Yeah. That's the one we did in the summer of 2020. A quarantine is in full effect now. He had his heart set on, I think my dad had his heart set on this Netherlands tour, which was almost completely flat. It would have been made for some really easy riding, but again, just no travel over summer. I think no travel, at least to Europe. Yeah. So we went from my house in Philadelphia to my brother's house in St. Louis.
Nice.
Wow.
With a detour to Niagara Falls.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Quite the detour. Nice.
Yeah. He said a straight trip would have been too short. So we had to make a detour.
Yeah, nice. And was that your first time to Niagara Falls or?
Second time.
Okay.
We went as a family when I was pretty young. Didn't remember a ton about it, but it was really cool to see. Cool place to ride your bike to.
Nice, very cool. So
then,
what were? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask, so did you do the same thing where you stayed in strangers' houses and?
Would have loved to.
Oh, but I guess with COVID, I didn't think
quarantine. I think we might have tried asking 1 or 2 people, but in the end, it just didn't feel necessarily right, since we both would have felt weird with people staying with us. I signed up for this couch surfing warm showers website after the European bike trip and had 2 or 3 people stay with me. At this point would have felt a little weird about having strangers stay with you in your house. So no, not this trip. This trip was more all camping and hotel rooms when we couldn't camp.
Nice.
Wow.
So in the Eurovelo 6 path, you stayed obviously with quite a few people. Like, what were some of the most memorable moments there?
Well, I really remember the first one a lot because, again, super nervous. It was this older couple in Switzerland. Didn't know what to expect here. Who lets strangers into their house? Clearly unstable, insane people. And it just became it became my favorite part of the trip. The people that are doing this are the kindest and most open-hearted people that you can ever come across. And they made us this delicious meal of ham and white asparagus with this sauce and green green beans, and just such a nice meal. The house was really close to the Rhine River, and he took us tubing there. We all brought tubes, and we walked down and made our way upriver and just floated down, this beautiful river. I'm a big movie and TV guy, and was a little upset that I wouldn't be able to watch anything for 2 months. It should be a record for me. And this guy also loved movies, and we watched Birdman together.
Oh wow.
And that was just so nice. And that's true of everybody we met, just people opening their houses, the people that are offering this want to hear about you, what you're doing, where you came from. Like this isn't, so it's like Airbnb where they're opening their houses, but they want to communicate with you and talk with you and find out your story. Yeah. And so, we got to meet a lot of really nice people on this trip. Became my absolute favorite part and something that I wanted to do then once I got back home.
Nice. That's amazing. So it sounds like, if you had the opportunity to do it again, would you do it again? Like the trip?
Oh, yeah.
Would change. Absolutely would do it again. Nice.
Yeah. I don't know if I would do that trip again. I mean, there's just so many different ones. I mean, we were on, I guess, the Eurovelo 6. We came across signs for, other Eurovelo trails across Europe, just in different directions, or, across the United States one time would be really cool to say you've done. And it definitely made me want to do this type of thing more. It's just these memorable experiences that you're just never going to forget. The people you meet, the places you see, really cool.
Yeah, even this story is pretty incredible. Like you got the invite from your dad, you just went out and got a bike, and you just did it. Like that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
It's speaking of just doing it. I one of the biggest things I hear with people saying, "Oh, that's so impressive. I could never do that." I always want to tell people, like, you totally can. So the thing with this bike trip too is that almost everybody who does it, everybody we saw on this Eurovelo 6 trail, which again is a very popular trail. We saw tons of people every day doing the same thing we were doing. They're all retired. No one has really the time to do this as much until they're like retired or, a teacher. Yeah. So my dad was the youngest person out there apart from me, and these are people easily in their 60s and 70s, not, they're not ripped.
Yeah.
They're just doing it. The thing is that it's just not a race. My dad and I might have started a little later than some people, and we got to the places a little earlier, a couple hours earlier than most, but the other people still got there. They might have stopped a couple more times, might have enjoyed the ride a little more, or stopped for a snack, but they still got to point A to point B just like we did. And, just anybody can do it,
Nice. That's amazing. When you talked about green beans, it triggered a memory. Have you seen the movie Irresistible with Steve Carell?
The new one with Rose Byrne.
That's right. Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Okay, so when you do have time, have a watch. There's a great scene around green beans when he's on the plane. I won't spoil it too much now, but I think you'll get a good kick out of it, because my wife and I got a huge kick out of it in terms of the green bean scene. So I'll leave that with you here, and then if you get a chance to watch it, send us a note. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
All right, will do. I love Steve Carell, love Rose Byrne, and I would love to see that.
Okay, awesome. Okay, that's great. That's great. Well, I guess maybe, speaking of your podcast, maybe tell us about it. Tell us about TV Trivia.
I was looking for a podcast I could do, I guess, by myself, and I really enjoy movies, TV. They're one of the few things I could talk about forever. And, I always loved bar trivia too, except I was only good at that TV movie round. So I thought I'd maybe try and make a podcast solely dedicated to that round of trivia. So again, it's trivia based on TV shows. I cover a couple episodes at a time. So it's always a specific show, season, and range of episodes. For example, The Office, season 3, episodes 1 through 5. And I have guests come on and I just ask them questions from those episodes. I think it's pretty straightforward like that.
Nice. Yeah.
So again, it's questions like, what's the name of Michael Scott's screenplay?
Okay.
Things like that. Dwight has a bed and breakfast. What are the 3 themes of his rooms there? Things like that. So things they mention in the show. I try and I don't do behind the scenes stuff. Who directed this episode? I keep it to all things that happened in the show. So if you watch it, you should have a good chance.
Nice.
Okay. So what's your favorite TV show right now that you're currently watching? Doesn't have to be new. Like it could be old.
I'll say one of my favorite shows of all time is Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Great.
That show will always be funny to me, and I think it's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. I used to watch that one too, but I don't think I watched maybe I watched like the first couple seasons and then I didn't watch the rest. But yeah, no, that was like a funny show as well.
Yeah. So why was it your favorite? Like what?
I don't know, man. We would just watch it after school some days, and I just thought every episode was funny. Had me laughing out loud at some point. And
Nice.
I just loved it so much. And I think that's one of the few shows where you can watch the first episode and tell if you're going to like it or not. You know, like
Yeah.
for The Office, I kind of hated almost all of season 1.
It was so slow. Like
It
I had
was-
like it took me a while to get into Office, I'm not gonna lie. But
yeah, same.
okay, so people are gonna hate me for this, but I like Parks and Rec more than The Office. Like I find it more funnier to be honest. But The Office is still good. But I liked Parks and Rec like right away.
Oh, really? I've heard the same thing about season 1 for Parks and Rec too. That I have friends that say like, don't watch season 1, just start from season 2, because if you watch season 1, you're just gonna stop.
Yeah,
Nice.
it does get funnier like later on, like that's for sure. But I enjoy Parks more.
I did enjoy Parks a lot too, but I think I'm the Office has something special for me. I think some sentimental value as well for me, and I just really enjoy that a lot.
That's amazing. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit more about your podcast. So sort of in closing a little bit here, we like to leave our listeners, viewers with some tips. So as part of tips appreciated. So if you can think of maybe a few tips of someone wanting to do a bike trip, bike tour. Could be anything. I know you mentioned, just do it. You don't have to be X, and X. What would be some of the things, either travel, food, mindset, whatever that might be? Leave us with some tips.
Sure. You do want to do your share of research first here. Maybe go for like a 2 or 3 day thing and see what you're missing. See what, think about what materials you need. And there are lists, there's blogs, there's YouTube videos. There is a lot of information out there about bike touring, but you don't want to start and then not have something. Your bike tools are, some food, some camping equipment. So make sure you do a little research with that, just what you're going to be bringing along. And the rest is almost up to you. Again, my dad is the type of person who needs to have everything figured out before we leave. Like for this 2-month-long bike trip, we had where we were stopping each day, how many miles we were going to be riding for the entire trip, the whole 2 months in advance here, where we met another guy, a 70-year-old Israeli man who said he just starts and stops whenever he feels like it. He stops when he comes to a town or a campground. He keeps going until he finds one.
Wow.
Mad props to that guy. Don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
But I will say, no matter which way you're going to do it, maybe something else that's really worth looking into that I think was really helpful was, we had a rough out. We knew where we were traveling through each day, and maybe just figuring out where a grocery store was so you could pick up some snacks and food, maybe where a McDonald's was so you could have some Wi-Fi and connect to the internet for a while.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Those things came in really handy there if you were camping and, needed to make food or needed some snacks and lunch along the way. It was really nice to know where these places were, so that we could go from there.
Nice. Well, I think the one thing that I took away from this, even once, is when you said it's really not a race with this, right? You kind of set your pace and your time, so there's an opportunity to take a break when you want. You're not really beating anybody out, put it that way. Where for me, when I think of like bike tour and bike races, or it's like a race almost, but you're right, it's not. It's take the time to enjoy it, meet the
Mhm.
people. It's a community thing, and a bonding, I'm sure, with your own dad, right? Like,
Mhm.
Yeah, that was great. And, I definitely loved bonding with my dad over this experience and, still bringing up things that we can still talk about and laugh about today. And, like just take your time, take some pictures, go into a store, meet some locals,
Yeah.
and they want to meet you too. We stopped at this place either in Serbia or Croatia where, we went into the store next to a restaurant and this woman was drinking outside at this restaurant and just called us over and said, "Hey, come join me.
Nice.
You guys look like you're from out of town with all these." And we had this lovely conversation with this woman who does translations for Penn State.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Cool.
She does
Wow.
and it was absolutely incredible. I would not worry about being in great shape. Just go out, give it a try, and
That's amazing.
yeah, do it.
Okay. So one last question for me. Okay, so when I go anywhere on trips or anything, I overpack because I'm like an overthinker, right?
Sure.
So being on this 2-month trip or any bike trip, what's the top 5 items you say like you need to bring with you?
Well, if you plan on camping, tent, sleeping bag, a little. I didn't know this before, but a little air mattress for your sleeping bag. That's so the camping stuff.
Mhm.
Along with camping stuff, we had a portable burner, I guess, where we could boil
Okay.
water, make noodles, boil
Yeah.
chicken and stuff.
Mhm.
Definitely want some spare tires in there just in case.
Yeah.
Snacks, you want food.
Mhm.
We had our electronic GPSs
Mm.
with telling us where to go, what turns to take.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think those are some of the big ones.
Okay.
Nice.
But pack super light, right? Like super
Yeah.
light.
There was definitely things that we didn't use a ton. I had like a bowl that I didn't use too much, and we didn't end up needing the spare tires, but they're good to have.
Yeah, for
Um,
emergencies for sure.
Spare clothes. I think we each packed only 2 pairs of everything.
Mhm.
2 shirts, 2 shorts, 2 underwear, socks, and every night you would find a shower or some water source and rinse them out, hang them up to dry,
Yeah.
and have fresh clothes to pack for another day. So
Nice.
it's a lot of washing our clothes by hand and
Yeah. Would you
things
recommend
like
like any type of material for that? Like merino wool or like does it matter?
that. Well, not wool, not wool if you're going to be biking in some warm weather.
Mhm. Well, there's
maybe-
thin merino wool, right? Like super thin because I know a lot of people wear that like for hiking and stuff because it wicks away moisture and if they need to wash it really fast, it like dries like really fast. So
Sure.
I'm not thinking about like the thick wool. Like no.
Well, doing most of our tours in the summer so far, we have not needed anything thick. Maybe an extra layer every now and then. Maybe we wear 2 shirts if it's a little cold at night or something.
Okay.
But we're not packing coats and
Yeah.
anything major there. We wore these long sleeve, I believe they were athletic material shirts. Another problem with this bike touring is the sun. And burning, sunscreen, things like that. So
Yeah.
we wore long sleeves most of the time just as extra protection. Athletic underwear and socks so that you're not blistering or anything. So
Yeah, true.
you do want to wear the right clothes.
Yeah, important. Well, I think I've learned a lot from our conversation, Brian. Like, did you, Eddie?
Yeah, it's pretty.
You want to
pretty-
go biking now?
I do. You know what? Like, as much as I chuckle a little bit here. It's so we just fixed up my son's BMX. I know it's not quite like a road bike or a road trip, but I learned a lot about just like the bike itself. And we bought that used. So to your point, is like we just went and got it used, and like learned about like lubing the chain, different types of lubes because of different weather types. So I actually thought about you when I was learning to lube this chain around dry and wet lube types, just because of the, however it washes it away. So yeah, it's really interesting, because I was thinking like even your earlier story about finding that hardware store to help you with that one wheel. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like the communication there, I was kind of having like visions in my brain, like the communication, and then him getting his tools out, or, and just kind of going through that. So no, thank you so much, Brian, for taking the time today and sharing your story. It is, it's, super fun to hear these things, because it's like one of those things where I'm like, oh, when am I going to get to do that? I was like, okay, maybe when I retire, I'm going to do it or whatever. Right. So,
man, I will say, like, seeing people bike too just makes me miss it. I just watched a TV show called Dark on Netflix, which was excellent. It takes place in a small German town, but the kids, are biking from house to house and stuff, and be like, man, that kind of, that looks like the way to do it, man. And
totally.
It makes me miss it.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian, for the chat today. We'll definitely share your links to your podcast. Yeah, definitely. We'd love to chat again in the future if there's an opportunity, but thanks for taking the time on a Sunday.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun. Love talking to you guys about this stuff, and it's always fun to talk about. And yeah.